So I actually uploaded this episode a few hours ago, but I made a really stupid mistake about one of the characters in the cutscene. It was really cringy, so I fixed that and now we're going again. Sorry if you already saw it and think this is spam. I just want to make sure the videos are actually correct and decent. Alright guys, so this isn't going to be a big one, but obviously we just had the big presentation. They announced Icebrood Saga. We got a big trailer. I've done a whole video on that. But at the end of the event, they did show a cutscene pulled from the upcoming story and just showed it on stage. A lot of you have asked me to talk about this and cover it. Really not sure how much I have to say. But it will be fun to look at, so why not? The setting here is we are, I think, at the Blood Citadel. So we're in the Blood Legion homelands. The devs essentially said from the presentation, this is probably from the prologue episode, and it's going to feature Rytlock with 2 other Char characters that we've never seen before. And, well, we're just going to watch, and then I'll tell you guys what my take on it is and how we feel. So let's see.
I'm here now. Nobody wants you here. Come. You're the one who ordered me here. Sentimentality. For a second, I forgot what you really are. Your tribune. My disappointment. Good thing your cub had me for a father.
So, there you go. That's it. That's the little cutscene. I have to say, I really do enjoy this. The sound design and the animations on this are top-notch. It feels like a really good, weighty cutscene. As always, when it comes to Guild Wars, I'm concerned that at the resolution I play the game, it will look kind of fuzzy and rubbish once I actually get it in game. But it's definitely well up there. We saw even in the most recent season, Season 4, that they did really well with the Palawa Joko cutscene. And I think this is just kind of more of the same. The fact that this is a prologue episode, like a smaller episode, and yet we'll still have a cutscene this good, says a lot to me. So I'm especially concerned and interested in this scene because it is to do with the Char. The next story, as they said on the presentation, is going to be very Char-centric and will ask big questions like what's going on with the Karner? What should we be throwing away the peace treaty that was signed between Char and humanity with the threat of the Elder Dragons now starting to recede? These are really big questions. The Blood Legion particularly are really cool to me, and they are the ultimate expression of Char brutality and aggression, which to me, it like typifies the race. That's what I think is so cool about the Char, how militaristic they are, how scary they are, how dangerous they are. And they've been so pacified over the past 7 years. Guild Wars 2, Tyria as we've known it, has been about togetherness and has been about the coming together of the races. And as edgy as certain elements seem to have been written in the initial guidance, the movement of the world way back in 2008, they really didn't do very much, I don't think, over these years. And our main headlining Char character, Rytlock, himself has become, you know, not that edgy, not that dangerous, not that scary. And I've always lamented that. I've always thought that the Char could be a lot more. In fact, of the 2 races from the playable races that I like least how they've been handled so far, one is the Norn, who I feel have been flangerized and a lot of their interesting assets stripped away, and the other is the Char, who I felt have been too pacified. Both are featuring in Icebrood, and the Char stuff seems so good. What do we get? The Blood Legion, these dangerous bastards, and there's a fight up there, way up in the Imperator's office. In fact, you'll notice, if I actually rewind to an appropriate moment here in the footage, is actually a lot like where we find Smoda sits, the Iron Legion. So I wonder whether this Citadel is going to be very similar to the Iron Citadel. I actually hope not. The Iron Citadel is this really weird, like, Death Star shape. I think it's supposed to be about Iron's ingenuity and outside-the-box thinking, and that led to their glass windows and stuff. It would be kind of lame if Blood Citadel was just the same. I would want to see a different thing going on. I guess it's possible, and some of you guys in the comments will know this, that this is the Iron Citadel. And what we actually have here is the Blood Imperator, Bangar Ruinbringer, who we've known about in the lore for a long time, by the way, but never seen on screen. Bangar has come down on a visit. But then the dialogue doesn't really, line up with that. They say nobody wants you here. I think this is back home. So I hope the devs do something cool with the Citadel, not just a copy-paste. This would be one of my concerns about the fact that we're only getting this as a saga instead of a full-blown expansion, whether they really go very far with this. But yeah, so let's talk about the characters themselves. Again, the animations are great. You actually see a lot in this guy's face. People are comparing him to Scar from The Lion King. I think that's a good thing. I think we should feel that way about them. Dangerous feline villains. The devs definitely looked at that and drew some inspiration. What I'm interested in is not necessarily just this guy being an antagonist for the saga, but perhaps a little bit more that he actually has a really good point, and it's just that he's disappointed in Rytlock. Also, we get this third character. So this is not named. This character doesn't even speak in the cutscene. I think it adds a lot, actually, having another person looking on. Presumably in-game, we will have dialogue with this character and things will go on. But even still, with just the cutscene, we do know who this is. This is likely to be Crecia Stoneglow of the Stone Warband. Now, I'm pretty sure a dev on Twitter confirmed that it was Crecia. This was a character introduced to us in the recent Rytlock Requiem Twine story that came out a little bit earlier on in the year. We got a good amount of detail. In fact, if we go to the wiki here and have a look, this is their little recap. Crecia Stoneglow, nicknamed Cree, is a member of the Warband and Bangar Ruinbringer's second in command. So that's why she's there at the Citadel. Basically, what we heard about her in the story was she and Rytlock were undercover with the Flame Legion, and when Rytlock gets caught with the stealing of Sahothin, she stabs him. She actually stabs Rytlock to keep her cover. Rytlock's forced to flee. She stays, eventually returns to the Blood Citadel and rises. Supposedly, Rytlock liked her, and I think there's a suggestion maybe even that Rytlock's cubs were with her, that these two were actually an item. So in the trailer, we hear Bangar talks about Rytlock's cub, and we'll get to that in a second. But it could have actually, she could be the mother, looking on and being very still even during that moment, very professional and very ambitious. So in this cutscene, Rytlock's returning to this life. I think essentially what's going on is Rytlock's been doing so much with Destiny's Edge and sacrificed so much. Even if you rewind the clock to Edge of Destiny, right then and there, he's estranged from his warband. They don't really explain why he's distant from them. He actually has had multiple mysteries. Where he got Sahothin was one of them, resolved by the short story in this most recent year. But also just why is this separation? Why is he so far from the Blood Citadel? Why is he disenfranchised with the efforts of the High Legion? Don't forget the Edge of Destiny takes place while the war is still going on. And then he's open to this human, Logan, to an extent, and they strike up this friendship. And he's kind of MIA through Edge of Destiny. And then at launch, he kind of returns, but he's hanging around the Iron Citadel, not Bloods. And then, of course, we have the story we've been following for the past 7 years. Him going missing in the mist, him spending a lot of time and cozying up with the commander instead of Logan and stuff. So you can see why the Char would not be very interested in this activity. How maybe he's not worthy of his Tribune rank, what's going on with his warband. And you can see where that animosity would come from. I think it is fair to not buy this animosity, by the way. These guys get into a fight, and that's one thing. They're Blood Legion. They like fighting, okay? And I love that. This is kind of... The fact that we get such violence straight away on the opener is kind of says to me the devs know what we're looking for in a Blood Legion story. We want to see this. We want to see Char beating the crap out of each other. Char actually go a lot further. If you remember playing a Blood Legion Char in the personal story, you basically get the choice to kill your superior. Let's remember, and the quality is really bad here. Sorry, guys. The devs haven't offered a direct fees. If you remember, the idea really is if you're going to take, if you're going to lead your warband, if you're going to go high, if you're going to become a centurion and work through the ranks, a lot of it is not diplomacy and bureaucracy and, actual putting the time in, but it's aggression. These are a dangerous race, and too many people have forgotten how dangerous and want to make them softer and, oh, that's not very human. That's not a very redeeming characteristic that they're violent. They are violent. And so, there's a big fight here. But, and I think this is the minimum that I would have liked to see. We could have gone further with this, right? That's really a very deep, and especially when it comes to Blood Legion stuff. So there's a fight. And because that's so ingrained in the culture, you might not actually say it's a huge deal that they have a battle. But clearly, Rytlock does not have Bangar's respect, okay? I love that line where Rytlock says, "I'm your tribune," because we see none of this of his story ever. We've not seen, "I'm your tribune." There's a history between these characters. We know Rytlock so well, or we think we do, but there's actually this whole story that ArenaNet can now go into where they establish this history. It's actually a brilliant position for them from a writer's perspective, I think, in that a character that by now should feel so old and worn and we know everything. They actually have this whole new area and dimension they can go into and make him feel fresh. So yeah, you know, like getting into their past is going to be good. And for now, he doesn't have his respect. So to get back to my main point, they fight. The fight might not mean that much. But is it really fair for Bangar and the Blood Legion to not appreciate Rytlock? Rytlock, who just helped out and was one of the people, you know, there was a very important moment in Dragonfall where a selection of NPCs were chosen to be with us before the destruction of Kralkatorrik. He had a very small group there. Rytlock got to be one of them. And so he was really directly involved with the destruction of not one Elder Dragon, but at least in ancillary ways, 3 Elder Dragons, okay? He did an attempt to get rid of the ghosts. That's more of an Iron Legion issue, definitely. So Bangar probably wouldn't care too much about that. That's something more that plagues Ascalon, isn't really inhibiting the Blood Legion so much. But maybe you can actually say, look, this is a bit ridiculous. This is a bit cartoony. Does he really not care about Rytlock? So maybe you don't like the writing, or maybe there's something else going on, or maybe we just need to remember how aggressive the Blood Legion are. There's a big question, really, which is, okay, over the past 7 years, and remember, 7 years have actually passed in Tyria as much as they have in the real world. Why is he still the Tribune after all this time? Why has someone not come for him, right? Why have we not seen another Char try to assassinate Rytlock and actually be more there? So maybe this is their way of answering, saying, look, 7 years is a long time, and you've just been pissing around. What have you done for Blood Legion? So I've seen a lot of other people as well talking about the idea that Blood Legion doesn't really care about everything Rytlock did because it was too far south, and that Blood Legion is very separate from the other High Legions. So it's my take that the established lore and world building has really unified those 3 High Legions together in a very strong way. That the 3 Imperators of Ash, Iron, and Blood do actually work in unison, and they're very cohesive. And that the other Citadels probably would care a lot about the issues that Iron has been dealing with. The only outsiders, the only ones who really operated on their own terms were Flame, right? And there was a big gulf for Flame versus the other High Legions. That was my interpretation of the lore. However, I think it might be fairer to say that there's more autonomy going on than we initially realized. And if I were the writer at this point, I would definitely think about pressing that autonomy, because you can now have Blood, you know, disrespecting Rytlock. You can have Blood wanting to tear up the peace treaty very quickly, which is exactly in character for them. And, you know, not caring so much about Iron, that maybe it was this supposed unity between them was much more flimsy than you think. That lets you segue into Carnair subject material much more easily. You know, the whole point they don't have a Carnair is because you cannot unite the High Legions. They will always have problems with one another. And you think that, you know, it's been settled for 7 years throughout Guild Wars 2, or even before, right? And just the Flame Legion with a thorn in the side. But actually, they really are very independently thinking. I think that could work really well. And then, of course, that means we get this saga, okay, where we look a lot at what Blood is doing. Maybe Blood come up with some plan and then have a, you know, get attacked by Jormag or whatever's going on. We have a big thing. We're dealing with the strife between Blood and Iron, Blood and Iron, Blood and Iron, Flame go Frost. And they could do a whole saga on that. And then, for the long-term prospects of future of the game, you have Ash Legion. You have Ash Legion who have been skulking and watching in the shadows, and we have their Citadel. And suddenly the idea of traveling to them, after all this other subject material has been played with a load and exhausted, suddenly going to Ash feels very compelling. And it just, you know, Tyria just stays this rich setting that just keeps having things going on. So I really do think we're going to find... this guy is not going to be very nice about Smoda, I think, possibly. You might even find them, you know, butting heads very much in person directly. So, by the way, should we talk a little bit more about Rytlock's daughter? This does seem to be a development. While Rytlock's away, she's being raised elsewhere, kind of as a stranger. I think a lot of people are scared, by the way, of a story where, you know, Bangar basically is just a douchebag who ends up being kind of an evil villain guy, you know, with not many dimensions to him. So then Rytlock as Tribune kills his Imperator, and then voila, now we have Imperator Rytlock. I think people are thinking that. I think there's a more interesting story of she is more loyal to this guy now and won't stand with Rytlock, even though he's father to her cubs, probably. That one issue I actually take with this cutscene is Rytlock being annoyed about the slight about his cub. Like, and that whole Requiem short story, The Twine, you guys can watch my video on it where we talked about it. It feels out of character to me for Char to care like this. That's not how they operate. They go off to, you know, a little Farrar, and their family is their warband, and not their actual family. As a personal story char in Guild Wars 2 right now, you can choose to kill your own dad. And that's cool. That's what the char are all about. So I don't know whether I really get this, but I think the story should be she respects the chain of command more. She respects Bangar more, and this will be the antagonism actually. And maybe we'll see she rises to be Imperator by the end. And I don't know what Rytlock's fate will be. I really don't. I do like seeing him here in his Revenant armor still, by the way. It'd be kind of cool if we get another costume change for him by the end of all things, and seeing him oppose the actual classic Blood Legion outfit. Which, by the way, I don't think they've really changed the get-up very much for, you know, the Imperator rank here with Bangar. And there you have it. So, yeah, that's really what I think about the cutscene. I think it was a really nice cutscene. Let me, again, just compliment the animations on this thing. They're really good, and I think the sound does a lot. The weight of the punches and stuff, that really comes from the sound. And I love what the attack that the devs went with. It's like, look who's being violent again. Look who remembered his fangs is Rytlock. He's a badass, and let's remember that. And that gives me a lot of confidence that they know what I'm looking for in a char story going forwards. There you go. Let me know what you think about this stuff, and I will see you on another one. Hopefully we get a cutscene with some Norn stuff as well, by the way. That would be pretty nice. But hopefully we get some good stuff going forwards. By the way, they said this was the lighter tone episode. The prologue was lighter in tone than the stuff coming forward. We're already hitting that fan pretty hard. This is a party episode, and we get this cutscene. Pretty nice.